Crabgrass can be a nightmare, but I'll show you how to get rid of it forever. With just a few simple steps, you can achieve that lush, green lawn you've always dreamed of. Let's get started.
How to get rid of crabgrass forever. Crabgrass is one of the most persistent and frustrating weeds a homeowner can face. It thrives in hot weather, spreads aggressively across bare patches of soil, and can produce thousands of seeds from a single plant before the first frost arrives. Many people assume that pulling it out by hand or spraying it once will solve the problem, but crabgrass is far more resilient than that. Understanding its life cycle, combined with a long-term strategy that blends prevention, cultural practices, and targeted treatment, is the only real way to eliminate it permanently from a lawn. Understanding the enemy. Crabgrass is a warm-season annual weed, which means the plant itself dies every year when temperatures drop in autumn. However, before it dies, a mature crabgrass plant can release an enormous number of seeds into the surrounding soil. These seeds lie dormant through winter and germinate the following spring once soil temperatures consistently reach around 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. This single detail is the key to understanding why so many homeowners feel like they are fighting a losing battle. Even if every visible crabgrass plant is removed in the fall, the soil may already contain a seed bank capable of producing new growth for several years afterward. Crabgrass seeds germinate in flushes throughout the growing season, not all at once. This means a single application of any product is unlikely to catch every seed that sprouts. A homeowner who sees crabgrass return in July after treating the lawn in April has not necessarily failed. They have simply encountered a later germination flush that the earlier treatment did not address. Recognizing this pattern is essential to breaking the cycle permanently rather than becoming discouraged after one growing season. Why crabgrass takes hold in the first place. Crabgrass rarely invades a thick, healthy lawn. It is fundamentally an opportunistic plant that colonizes bare soil, thin turf, and stressed areas where established grass cannot outcompete it. Common entry points include the edges of driveways and sidewalks where heat radiates and soil compacts, areas that receive heavy foot traffic, spots where the lawn was scalped too short during mowing, and patches that struggle with poor drainage or compacted soil. Every one of these conditions creates an opening that crabgrass seeds are ready to exploit the moment temperatures rise in spring. This is why long-term crabgrass control cannot rely on chemical treatment alone. A yard that keeps producing thin, weak turf will keep inviting crabgrass back no matter how many herbicide applications are used. The permanent solution requires addressing the underlying lawn health issues that allow crabgrass to establish itself in the first place. Step 1. Pre-emergent herbicide timing. The single most effective tool against crabgrass is a pre-emergent herbicide, but its effectiveness depends entirely on timing. Pre-emergent products work by forming a chemical barrier in the top layer of soil that prevents germinating seeds from developing normally. Once a crabgrass seed has already sprouted and pushed through the soil surface, a pre-emergent product will do very little to stop it. For this reason, the application must occur before soil temperatures reach the germination threshold, typically in early to mid-spring, depending on regional climate. A commonly used benchmark among horticulturists is applying pre-emergent when forsythia bushes are blooming or when soil temperatures at a 2-inch depth hold steady around 55 degrees Fahrenheit for several consecutive days. Applying too early can allow the barrier to break down before the germination window closes, while applying too late misses the plants that have already emerged. Because crabgrass germinates in multiple flushes, many experienced lawn care professionals recommend a split application, one round in early spring and a second, lighter round 6 to 8 weeks later. This extends the protective window and catches later germinating seeds that a single application would miss entirely. Step 2. Post-emergent control for existing plants. Pre-emergent products will not affect crabgrass that has already sprouted, so a post-emergent herbicide is necessary for any plants that slip through. Post-emergent options are generally most effective when the crabgrass is still young, typically before it develops more than 2 or 3 tillers. Mature, seed-producing crabgrass is considerably harder to kill and may require repeated applications. Timing matters here as well. Herbicides tend to be more effective when applied during periods of active plant growth, and less effective during extreme heat or drought stress, when the plant's metabolic processes slow down. Reading product labels carefully and avoiding application right before rainfall is essential, since rain can wash away the treatment before it has been absorbed. Step 3. Manual removal done correctly. For smaller infestations, manual removal remains a viable option, but it must be done properly to have any lasting effect. Crabgrass has a shallow but wide-spreading root system, and pulling only the visible top growth, without removing the roots, will allow the plant to regenerate. The most effective approach is to pull the plant while the soil is moist, gripping as close to the base as possible and removing the entire root mass in one motion. Critically, any removal must happen before the plant sets seed. Once seed heads have formed, pulling the plant can actually make the problem worse by scattering seeds across the soil surface. Bagging and disposing of mature crabgrass plants, rather than composting them, prevents seeds from re-entering the yard through finished compost. Step 4. Building a lawn that resists crabgrass. Naturally, chemical control alone will never provide a permanent solution if the underlying lawn conditions continue to favor weed establishment. A dense, healthy stand of turfgrass is the most effective long-term defense against crabgrass because it shades the soil surface, keeping temperatures low enough to inhibit germination and leaving little bare ground for seeds to colonize. Several cultural practices support this goal. Mowing at a higher height, generally 3 to 4 inches for most cool season grasses, encourages deeper roots and denser canopy, growth that naturally suppresses weed seedlings. Overseeding thin or bare patches in early fall, when cool season grass establishes best and crabgrass is dying back for the year, closes the gaps that would otherwise become entry points the following spring. Proper watering practices also matter significantly. Deep, infrequent watering encourages grass roots to grow downward and become more drought-resistant, while shallow, frequent watering favors the shallow root systems that crabgrass depends on. Soil health plays an equally important role. Compacted soil struggles to support dense turf, but is an ideal environment for crabgrass, which tolerates compaction far better than most desirable grass species. Core aeration performed once or twice a year relieves compaction, improves water and nutrient penetration, and creates better growing conditions for turfgrass roots. Following aeration with overseeding maximizes the benefit, allowing new grass seed to reach the soil through the aeration holes. Fertilization timing also influences long-term crabgrass resistance. Applying nitrogen-based fertilizer in accordance with the grass type's growing season, generally in fall and again in early spring for cool season lawns, strengthens turf density heading into the following summer, when crabgrass pressure is highest. Addressing high traffic and problem areas. Certain areas of a lawn will always be more vulnerable to crabgrass, regardless of general lawn care quality. Edges along driveways, sidewalks, and patios absorb radiant heat that raises soil temperature earlier in the season, giving crabgrass a head start. These zones often benefit from extra attention, including a slightly earlier pre-emergent application and reinforced overseeding each fall. Similarly, areas subject to heavy foot traffic, such as pathways across the yard or spots near gates and play equipment, compact quickly and thin out the grass. Installing stepping stones, mulch, or a defined path can redirect traffic and protect the turf in these zones, rather than fighting an endless cycle of thinning grass and crabgrass invasion. The multi-year commitment. Because crabgrass seeds can remain viable in soil for several years, achieving something close to permanent eradication requires sustained effort across multiple growing seasons rather than a single aggressive year of treatment. The first year typically focuses on stopping new seed production through diligent pre-emergent timing, post-emergent spot treatment, and manual removal of any escapees before they mature. Subsequent years benefit from a shrinking seed bank, meaning less crabgrass emerges each spring, provided the lawn's cultural practices continue to support dense, healthy turf. Skipping even one season of pre-emergent application, or allowing a portion of the lawn to thin out, can undo much of the previous progress. Since a single mature crabgrass plant can replenish a significant portion of the seed bank, consistency across years, not intensity in any single season, is what ultimately determines success. Common mistakes that undermine long-term control. Several recurring mistakes are known to sabotage crabgrass control efforts. Applying pre-emergent herbicide too late in the season, after soil temperatures have already crossed the germination threshold, is one of the most frequent errors, since it allows early flushes to establish before any barrier is in place. Mowing too short is another common issue, as it reduces the grass canopy's ability to shade the soil and directly benefits low-growing crabgrass, which tolerates close mowing far better than most desirable turf species. Overwatering on a shallow, frequent schedule is also problematic, since it favors crabgrass's shallow root system over the deeper roots that healthy turfgrass depends on. Finally, neglecting bare or thin patches rather than overseeding them promptly leaves open invitations for crabgrass seeds every single spring, regardless of how well the rest of the lawn is maintained. A realistic long-term strategy, achieving something close to permanent crabgrass control, ultimately depends on treating it as an ongoing lawn management practice, rather than a one-time fix. The most effective, long-term strategy combines properly timed, pre-emergent applications each spring, prompt post-emergent treatment of any plants that break through, careful manual removal before seed set when infestations are small, and a foundation of strong cultural practices that keep turfgrass dense and healthy throughout the year. No single step guarantees permanent results on its own, but the combination, applied consistently over several seasons, steadily depletes the soil seed bank and closes off the bare, thin, or stressed areas that crabgrass depends on to establish itself. Over time, a lawn maintained this way becomes increasingly resistant to new infestations, transforming what once felt like an unwinnable yearly battle into a manageable and largely preventable part of routine lawn care.